Dan Costello. I'm a musician here in Boise, Idaho, and I play almost every night of the week here professionally. I'm a graduate of Boise State University, did classical guitar there, and I try to do as many different styles as I can now to play as often as I can.
In the middle of the WC handy, won't you look down over me?
Wow. That's an interesting question because I've been listening to music all my life. You know, it's always been around. Probably the earliest tunes that I can remember are maybe some folk tunes like Hot Cross Buns or Red River Valley or something like that. My parents also had a lot of records, and I remember listening to Simon and Garfunkel and Peter, Paul and Mary, Johnny Cash, the Kingston Trio.
Do you really feel the way I feel? Saw the Costello walking down Union Avenue, followed him up to the gates of Graceland, and I watched him strut right through.
I used to have this cool little toy called a Simon, or not a Simon Says, it was Major Morgan. It was this little toy called Major Morgan, and it had old folk tunes and things that you would play on it, like a little buttons on it. And I remember playing like Red River Valley and Hot Cross Buns and things like that from an early age too. So that's probably some of those little folk tunes and things are pretty early for me.
Then I was walking in Memphis. I was walking with my feet 10 feet out of beat. Walking in Memphis. Do you really feel the way I feel?
The question was what influences my songwriting, and I think some of the early pop songs that I heard almost all dealt with relationships, with love, or with falling in love, falling out of love, complications with that, or I think that's something that really drew me to some of those songs. And I definitely write my own songs in that style, but there are some other influences there too. Sometimes it's more about a place. I've written a couple of songs about places here in Boise, or I've got one called High Country that was kind of both about a good friend of mine that was almost like a brother to me, and we also spent a lot of time up in Stanley in the Sawtooth Mountains, and so that was definitely a connection there.
Saw the Costello walking down Union Avenue, followed him up to the gates of Graceland, and I watched him strut right.
My first, one of my earliest memories is finding my mom's baritone ukulele. It's an instrument. It's like a bigger ukulele or a small guitar. And I found that in a closet. We were living in this little tiny town in Idaho, and we had this big farmhouse and lots of closets and little nooks and crannies. And I found that in a closet one day, and I pulled it off of the shelf, and I remember thinking, wow, what is this thing? And I didn't even really recognize it for what it was. But so I started kind of plinking around on it, and I was worried actually that my mom and dad were going to find out. I thought maybe I wasn't supposed to play it, but my mom actually really thought that was neat that I had found it and started playing with it. So. Both my parents could sing, and my mom played piano, and so we were always very musical as a family, and they really encouraged that. I don't really remember not singing. I mean, I've either sung or hummed along to the radio or whistled along to whatever I've heard for as long as I can remember. I used to actually drive my dad nuts whistling along to anything that came on the radio or records that we were listening to. But they always really supported that. So.
Do you really feel the way I feel walking in Memphis? I was walking with my feet 10 feet up a beat street, walking in Memphis. Do you really feel the way I feel? Yeah.
So the question was how I feel about the local scene, the Boise music scene. And I think with Boise being kind of geographically isolated from other places, that creates a unique feel here. Most of the musicians that develop here, they stay here. They don't try to travel to these other major cities. There's maybe a lot more competition in some of those other cities. Sometimes that drives artists to do things differently, and maybe it encourages things. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, maybe it makes it kind of, you do things you wouldn't normally do. And I think the supportive nature of Boise's music scene allows artists to kind of, you know, do their thing. They get to do what they want to do, and then there's a community of artists around them that support that. A lot of the venue owners here recognize the value of that, and so that gives us an opportunity to make enough money to make a living. I mean, I don't know if I'd be able to be a full-time professional musician in a lot of other markets, but and Boise's kind of unusual in that way, where the venues recognize the value of the live music, and almost everyone in the music community helps each other out. It's much more of a collaborative and supportive spirit rather than a competitive spirit. So that's a really, you know, it's a unique thing about this community. I feel really lucky to be a part of that. I don't know if I'd be able to do what I do on a full-time basis in any other city like this. It's just a really really unusual thing. It's, you know, it's this remote little playground for the local musicians, and we all seem to really enjoy each other's company and help each other out. So.
Oh, do you feel the way I feel? Now they got catfish on the table. They got gospel in the air. Yeah. Reverend Green, oh, he gonna be so glad to see you. When you haven't got said you haven't got a single little prayer. Whoa. Well, you got a prayer in Memphis.
You know, I'm really happy with what I'm doing and how I'm performing, and I feel like that's become a really strong thing for me. But yeah, you just can't ever get too complacent as an artist. You know, you have to find the next thing and that pulls you along, that inspires you.
Oh, do you feel the way I feel?
And that right now, I think, is still inspiring me. I want to make the songs that I'm writing be that much more connective and powerful, and I'm having so much fun collaborating with other artists that I would love to further that, you know, and continue to explore other collaborations with other artists.